para
Listo, gracias.
enfrentar la emergencia climática. Nuestra meta es volver a conectar con el mundo, escuchando, aprendiendo y celebrando la acción por el clima. Este es nuestro Perú. Bienvenidos a nuestro desafío climático.
Hola, hola. Hola, hola.
Compunche Perú, Gobierno del Perú.
En el Perú, el cambio climático es una oportunidad para ser consciente de su historia y su cultura, pero también de su riqueza natural y su gente. Gente que se levanta cada mañana con actitud resiliente, responsable, sostenible. Un país donde cada día la acción climática se descubre, creando nuevas formas de hacer las cosas para hacer realidad nuestro desafío climático en nuestras aguas, montañas y selvas. Un Perú que ya empezó a generar un cambio de conciencia en su gente. Gente que suma, que ha entendido el valor de adaptarse, de reducir su huella de carbono, donde si el clima cambia, nosotros también. Personas de acción que aprenden y respetan su pasado, construyen su presente y sueñan con un gran futuro, en donde trabajando juntos nos volvamos más fuertes, más comprometidos. Un Perú dispuesto a trabajar y caminar junto a sus hermanas y hermanos de todo el planeta para enfrentar la emergencia climática. Nuestra meta es volver a conectar con el mundo, escuchando, aprendiendo y celebrando la acción por el clima. Este es nuestro Perú. Bienvenidos a nuestro desafío climático.
Compunche Perú, Gobierno del Perú.
En el Perú, el cambio climático es una oportunidad para ser consciente de su historia y su cultura, pero también de su riqueza natural y su gente. Gente que se levanta cada mañana con actitud resiliente, responsable, sostenible. Un país donde cada día la acción climática se descubre, creando nuevas formas de hacer las cosas para hacer realidad nuestro desafío climático en nuestras aguas, montañas y selvas. Un Perú que ya empezó a generar un cambio de conciencia en su gente. Gente que suma, que ha entendido el valor de adaptarse, de reducir su huella de carbono, donde si el clima cambia, nosotros también. Personas de acción que aprenden.
Por favor, nos anuncian que ya están llegando las autoridades. Le pediríamos, por favor, que tomemos
So the authorities are coming.
ya a la semana
So
climática.
we're going to sit down and we're going to start with the Climate
Por favor,
Week.
tomemos asiento todos. ¿Sí?
Let's sit down, please.
Entonces, disculpa, solamente para saber dónde va a estar premio. En esta casa. Ya, entonces primero pasa la ministra para que no. Sí. Buenos días a todos y todas. Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros. Vamos a dar inicio entonces.
Good morning to all of you.
a la Semana Climática del Perú
We're going to start with the Climate Week 2023. We have the presence of Alberto Otaralo, President of the Council of Ministers, and Elvina Ruiz, Minister of the Environment. Please take a seat, have a seat. Thank you very much for being with us. And thank you for participating in the Climate Week in Peru. So to start with this opening session, we're going to give the floor to Albina Ruiz, for the opening speech.
Muchas gracias. Buenos días con todos y todas, querido Premier. Gracias por acompañarnos esta mañana, vicegobernadora. Gracias también por estar
Good morning. Thanks to you all. Thanks for being here. I want to thank our Prime Minister because he has taken some time this morning to be with us. This shows the importance of this topic, climate change, for our government. We also wish to salute the people that come from all the regions of the country and people from the LAC platform. LEDS LAC platform. In the context of great transformation and definition of new paradigm for the countries, Peru is at the center of the climate action for Latin America and the Caribbean. Welcome to this Climate Week 2023, together for our to face our climate challenge. The Ministry of the Environment
Recording in
has
progress.
gathered people from all the country under a premise. Facing climate change is the best opportunity to unite and accelerate processes towards development that's competitive and sustainable for our communities. To reach this goal, we have 149 measures that are part of the nationally determined contribution at national level, commitment of the country regarding the Paris Agreement that we call in Peru our climate challenge. These concrete actions are tools that will allow us to progressively reach a reduction of the impacts of this phenomenon and a low carbon growth in 2030. I want to take advantage of this opportunity to congratulate you because thanks to the work that we have been doing jointly, 25% of you have reported your progress and 50% are implementing tools for climate challenge. Among the NDC measures that are implemented in their territories, 6 regional governments are prioritizing greenhouse gas effects mitigation measures. And they report progress in implementation during 2022 from all regional governments. The Ucayali region has implemented 75% of the follow-up activities regarding the creation of forest zoning modules. And they also have created spaces of dialogue with the population. Along with that, also 13 regional governments have prioritized the implementation of good practices in terms of agriculture regarding climate change. An important case is Cusco. They have developed actions to strengthen capacities and to appropriately manage fertilizers. And we have all support from the Adaptation Fund to implement measures regarding agriculture in Huánuco, Junín, and Puno. We are working with all the government and non-governmental actors, players, so that the climate action is a state policy that will be integrated in all plans, programs, and projects, working hand in hand with the private sector and the international cooperation to make progress regarding priorities and needs of each territory. Now I want to talk about the members of LEDS LAC that are in our country. We're going to have 3 days of many exchanges and learning. We recognize a common target, which is increasing our sense of urgency, defining actions that will create a real transformation based on science and evidence to face the climate crisis. And we hope that we will be able to to build a roadmap that will guide us towards COP30 in Brazil. Thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you for this morning, and thank you for all your hard work. Thank you very much for these welcome words. And thank you for this summary regarding NDCs in the country. And now we're going to give the floor to Alberto Otárola, President of the Council of Ministers.
Muy buenos días, señora ministra del Ambiente,
Good morning to you all. Good morning to the representatives from different countries. Good morning to the people from the different international organizations. We greet you from Dina Boluarte's government administration. In this for this government, this event is very special because of the subjects, topics that we will be dealing with. But it's also very important regarding our internal regulation. I want to salute the delegations from Brazil, Mexico, Panama, Costa Rica, Chile, Argentina, the Dominican Republic, Guatemala, and Colombia. A big round of applause for them. Thanks for being here with us. And under the leadership of Albina, that's very committed to her ministry, we're here with the leaders of climate action at a Latin American level and regarding regional governments of Peru to face a big challenge regarding climate change. As you all know, Peru is at the center of climate action. It's one of the most vulnerable countries regarding climate change. We all know that. And at the same time, our country has a variety of opportunities to grow competitively and in a low carbon manner, which is one of our big challenges. Our history shows us that the growth in Peru is a product of collective effort. And that's why facing challenges regarding climate change has to do with the coordinated work and having an innovative vision of the future. The Climate Week in Peru, directed to the regional governments, is going to have 3 days, as Minister Albina said. Government will be looking at the debates they will be having, and we'll try to seek dialogue regarding challenges, progress, and needs regarding climate action. As a president for the high-level Commission for Climate Action Peru, and as the president of the Council of Ministers, I urge you to join our climate challenge to turn climate change into an opportunity for sustainable growth. During these days, we will provide information that's wide and objective regarding climate change and the role of regional governments, which are very important allies of regional government to manage this subject. And the regional governments are very important for the implementation of adaptation mitigation measures to achieve NDCs. I wish you success during this regional workshop, and on our side, we will continue working to boost the development of the regions through the modernization of subnational governments and the encouragement of investment, which requires prioritizing climate action in all of our national territory. We're committed to adapting to climate change and reducing our greenhouse effect gases 40% for 2030. That's Peru's commitment that we renew today. And to finish, I want to comment on 2 things regarding the responsibility that the Peruvian government has regarding investments in general, and especially mining investments. Peru, as you know, is a mining country, but the condition that Dina Boluarte's administration has presented to the investors is the following: reducing paperwork, red tape, to tell the investors yes or no. That's going to change, but also that in their country will respect environmental regulations, labor law, and the need of having the participation of people impacted by the investments, not only to lower social confrontations, but also so that Peruvian promise to respect international standards is facts and not only words. I also want to point out that the presidency of the Council of Ministers and the President have not challenged the transfer of governmental authorities, as some media are saying. We ratify the support to decisions and the technical work and very professional work carried out by these bodies. But what we will be dealing with is that but administrative procedures will be according to the constitutions and according to our, and these procedures have to be quick and fast. And so companies will have an answer saying yes or no in a reasonable delay. So thanks again. Welcome to this event. And please receive the greetings of President Dina Boluarte. And please know that climate change and the fight against it has a voice in Latin America.
Presidente del Consejo de Ministros. Muchas gracias.
Alberto Tarola, President of the Council of Ministers. We know that you have a very tight schedule, so we're going to take a picture quickly. Please come down. You can jump.
Ahora vamos a la segunda parte de la foto, por favor, mirando por este lado.
Okay, second part of the picture. Okay, please stand up so that we can take this picture. Is that okay, or do they have to sit down? Say Pisco. Please raise your hand. Thank you very much. Don't worry, your pictures will be in the Ministries of the Environment webpage and the Council of Ministers webpage. Thank you very much, Ministry of the Environment and President of the Council of Ministers. Please, let's continue. Let's sit down. I think that this moment is important. We wanted to tell you we are going to continue with the session. We're going to wait for the ministers to say goodbye. Let's not move from our seats, please.
Bien, entonces, luego ya de este primer momento.
So after this opening session, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Alexis Echevarria. I'm the coordinator of the Libélula System of Knowledge and the LAC platform. And today I will be joining you during this open session as a facilitator. If you have any questions, please let me know. This opening session has 3 phases. It has been so big that it looks like it's the end of the day. We have, yeah, I did this on purpose to make you laugh. So in the first phase, we've had this opening session, and now we're going to have a second phase. We're going to have a conversation. We don't want to have a greeting after greeting. We want to go into action. Let's comment on our challenges, the opportunities that we have in our country and in Latin America. What are the priorities that we have? As the minister said, there are many progress has been made in terms of legislation. For example, the framework law on climate change identified that it was we needed to have sectorial focal points and not only territorial, and that's why you are focal points of the government of Peru. And this leads us to have territorial visions of NDC's implementation. So we have So to start with this second phase of the session, I wanted to thank all of you for your participation, but also specifically to the international cooperation, because without them, we couldn't be doing these two simultaneous events. I think that the work that's being done to promote climate action is key. I want to thank especially Euroclima, which is a regional cooperation program that was the cooperation between the European Union, Latin America, and the Caribbean, based on shared values and commitments to respond to climate change and the loss of biodiversity jointly. A platform to exchange ideas, experiences between countries of the region and with the European Union. Euroclima is financed by the European Union and the German federal government through and it seeks to contribute with a sustainable transition, resilient transition, and inclusive transition through mitigation and adaptation efforts, including the protection, conservation of biodiversity, and the promotion of circular economy in Latin American and Caribbean countries, among which there is Peru. Support of Euroclima and the Climate Week is framed in the dialogue that sustains the program and through which we identified in 2020, along with the Ministry of the Environment, 4 actions to strengthen institutional capacities and technical capacities to make progress regarding NSS. We have the implementation of NDCs with a territorial approach, and that's why we're here today with the subnational governments, and the support of climate action, which are topics that we're going to talk about in the workshop, such as this workshop to talk about resource mobilization. And these 2 actions have been implemented under the GIZ, a German cooperation agency, and they represent a solid support so that this week will become during which we can make visible the progress that we've had in Peru at a regional level and also at a national level. So we're giving a clear example of one of the cooperations that we have and that we're always working on at a national level and international level. There are many others, and we're going to continue today talking about this regarding regional governments and regarding organizations from the rest of the region. And we will continue talking about the implementation of the NDCs. And so we're going to move to our second phase, and for this national panel with regional authorities, I'm going to give the floor to Cristina Rodriguez, Director of Adaptation at Climate Change regarding climate change at the Ministry of the Environment. Thank you, Cristina.
Thank you very much, Alexis, for passing me the floor. Good morning to you all. Dear representatives from the regions, regional authorities, Lambayeque's Vice Governor, Ms. Saavedra, who is with us today in the session, cooperation representatives, LAC representatives. They are also connected through the web. And I wanted to salute you on behalf of Milagros Sandoval. Unfortunately, flight was canceled yesterday and she wasn't able to come today, but she's connected and looking at us attentively. I hope she can be with us in the afternoon. She lives very close to this hotel, so she will get here quickly after the airport. Things like these happen. Many of you have been coming through flights, and you know these things happen. I'd like to highlight that for us as a minister, President of the Council of Ministers and Alexis have said, we are enthused with these two sessions during these 2 days and a half with regional governments and the Let's LAC platform. With the regional governments particularly, because we had these climate week forums face to face before the pandemic. Perhaps some of you remember that we were here in Lima during Climate Week, but we also had 24 forums in the region. In the regions, we went to different regions in the country to be able to talk not only with the regional government authorities, but also with non-governmental entities in the territory. In 2021, we did not get discouraged despite the pandemic, and we had a virtual environment week or climate week. And after many efforts, we have been able to meet face-to-face this year, and special because we have new regional authorities this year, and we want to continue the work started in the regions with them. We want to strengthen this work, and today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow, it will be a very good opportunity to strengthen our conversation, listen to them, see what priorities we have to focus in the Ministry of the Environment to go ahead with the climate action. So this is a second block in this event. We don't want to talk only from Minam. We want to listen to you. We want to listen to we're going to listen to 5 representatives from regional governments, and I'll invite them to sit here. Please come forth, and we are going to talk a little bit together to have a regional view. And we will listen to many other representatives from the region. So, Walter Lopez, Regional Manager of Natural Resources and Environment Management from Junín, Ana Rosario Guerrero, Regional Manager of Natural Resources and Environmental Management from Ancash, David Messia Bartra, Environmental Management Manager from the Regional Government in San Martín, José Andrés Tello, Regional Manager of the Regional Metropolitan Government of Lima, and Sergio Sánchez Ibáñez, Natural Resource Manager and Environment Manager from Cajamarca. I don't have José Tello with us. Here he is. Welcome. All right. So, in order to start with this session, we're going to have a small, we will have 2 guiding questions. And because of time, you only have 4 minutes for your first answer. And then I'll ask a second question, even a shorter one, 2 minutes, for you to react to what I say or to my questions. Please let me, I'll let you know when you have just 1 minute, okay? So, let's start with Walter from Junín. Walter can tell us what are the challenges and priorities to implement adaptation and mitigation measures in Junín. What opportunities you see in coordinating actors in such a space as this one. Thank you, Cristina. Good morning, dear representatives from different countries, officials from the Ministry of the Environment, colleagues from regional governments and other institutions. First of all, I'd like to thank you for this invitation. As Cristina mentioned, after 3 years, we meet again face-to-face in this great event. Our challenge and priority in Junín to implement NDCs is to be part of the entire environmental challenge and national goals within the Paris Agreement, that is reducing GHN by 40% and also implement adaptation measures. So we have prioritized a regional strategy, the regional ordinance that declares updating the regional strategy on climate change has been passed. We have a regional inventory of greenhouse gases, GHG. We have prioritized projects for adaptation to climate change within the NDCs. And we'll have a presentation this afternoon on that matter. It's also important to point out that priorities have to do with existing platforms for general climate change management. This is also a challenge for us because work is not only by regional governments, but also coordination with international cooperation, central government, and regional governments. We have done progress, but we need also the local regions, the local governments that have authority on issues of climate change. So they have to partake in the climate change management, and they are very much linked to local populations who are vulnerable to climate change. And we have also to relate to peasant communities and native communities. Junín has 34% of Amazon area. It's 64% of Amazon area, and we have advanced in our regional platform of native communities. Ours is the second platform at national level, and we're going to work hand in hand with them. It's a big challenge, but we address it, and this forum will allow us to consider that work together with all regional governments, particularly regional governments that partake our watersheds in the central macro region, the Mantaro watershed, which groups Pasco, Junín, Huancavelica, and Ayacucho, and also in the central jungle, we have the Ene, Perene, and Tambo rivers that are also related to the Ayacucho, Cusco, and Ucayali territorial spaces. There is this big challenge of doing teamwork together with all the ministries too, because NDC measures have responsible agents in our ministries, but we won't be able to reach our targets if we do not coordinate all government levels and all territories. Thank you very much, Walter, for this summary of the challenges and priorities you have in your region. Now let's listen to Ancash, Ana Rosario Guerrero, General Manager of Natural Resources. She will talk about challenges and priorities to implement adaptation and mitigation measures in Ancash. Good morning to you all. Receive the greetings of our regional governor, Coqui Noriega. He's pleased to greet you all. We consider at least two large challenges in the country. One is related to managing knowledge on climate, and another one is related to investments. One of the challenges to implement the NDCs is to go to the regions and to have a country that is empowered on the use of climate, on climate, and in the benefit of our citizens. We have climate change already present here. It has been present for many years, and it's even more present due to the extreme events that produces. The information on climate is necessary. We consider that this information is the drive for reducing disaster risks. It's the drive for general management of water resources. This is the drive for farming, production, and all social and economic activities in our country. We also acknowledge that our management is more efficient thanks to constant and timely climate information and forecasting. But we also need to understand it. For more than 30 years now, with the first study of local perceptions on climate change in the country, we were told about this event when the science was even doubtful about climate change. Our local perceptions showed that there was climate change coming. Today, we have an irreversible issue that demands scientific information and local knowledge that should be strengthened mutually. This challenge does not depend on Tsunami or Anna or the academia. It depends on all public instances at different levels. Another priority is to promote guidelines for public and information on environment, which is the base for our activities. Many state actions depend on investing on infrastructure, and this has to be adapted in our environmental projects. I acknowledge that many regional governments are progressing with investment on environmental projects. We can see that when we visit some regions in our country. However, we still have the challenge of conciliating public investment calendars and forestry calendars. In December, we close all the investments in the country, and there we start most reforestation activities in the area. When we plan objectives for infrastructure, it's very clear in terms of progress, but we need intermediate targets to help us follow up investments. And we need to have economists that are able to do multidisciplinary work to generate guidelines that agree to our environmental demands. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Anna, for mentioning key issues. I'm sure that several representatives here coincide on continuing work on knowledge, information, particularly when we have changes in of managers. This has to be reinforced. In these sessions along these 3 days, we'll have some room for talking about these topics. As for investment, that's also a very important topic, and we're at the Ministry of the Environment. We're working on guidelines to help incorporate these topics when we have investment decisions. The third representative is that of San Martin, David Messias. Again, the question on what are your challenges and priorities to implement mitigation and adaptation measures in San Martin. Good morning, everybody. First of all, I'd like to greet you on behalf of Walter Gomez Jimenez, our governor, who is very thankful for this invitation today. In San Martin, we have one of the big challenges we have in San Martin is the use of land change. Forestry and farming in our area. We have several commitments to reduce deforestation, and we are encompassing a number of projects that will influence to mitigate these changes in farming. And we'd like to let you know about agroforestry and also the recovery of degraded areas in San Martin. Among the actions that contribute to our NDCs, we are trying to mitigate GHGs to be able to adapt to climate change. We have to mention that in this region, we have 80% related to silviculture. And through this, we are including a number of activities and projects. And we have a number of tools that have been approved in that regard. One of them is a low emission regional strategy and the climate change regional strategy. We continuously work with these tools. We can also mention that we have opportunities in our region. It is true that all regions have weaknesses, and our weakness is budgeting. When we want to face environmental issues and climate change, we'll always find this shortage of resources. And as government managers, we always coordinate with international cooperation, an important key in our region to be able to mitigate climate change. As a region, we will always work in coordination with all. We have components and actors that support us to face climate change. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, David, for this summary of the San Martin region priorities. That's part of our Amazon area, as you know. Now, coming back to Lima, but not Lima City, the regional government of Lima, that is Lima and its provinces. We are here with Jose Tello, and again, we need him to comment about challenges and priorities to implement mitigation and adaptation measures in this region. Thank you very much to our hosts and the Ministry of the Environment that carries out a very important work. The metropolitan Lima region is different from the Lima region. The Lima region is made up by the 9 provinces that are around the metropolitan area. What's the challenge here? It's a very important challenge. This city is a mega city among the 25 largest cities in the world. It's urban. There are no limits between districts. Environmental protection spaces are more and more reduced, and that there's a very high level of conflict in spaces as the hills, the coastal hills that are more and more reduced. There are 13,000 hectares in the metropolitan region, and we have to protect them. And we have also to protect the river banks. We have the Chillón River, the Rimac and the Lurín watersheds, and there's a very complex situation there. as a product of conurbation, but also of very old disorder that goes back to the 40s and 50s in the last century. Therefore, there's a very big challenge in the city, awareness raising about protecting the environment, and that's important. And why is this so? Because in governmental spaces or forums such as this one, where civil society is involved too, we can have a very important dialogue to reach a problem analysis, but also make decisions around those analyses. But those decisions have to go hand in hand with a sharing process with all the people. All citizens have to become aware. A clear example is with the defenders of coastal um, areas. These are human rights defenders that are protected by the Ministry of Justice because their life is in danger when they meet land traffickers. They are not interested in the fact that the hills are protected or that they can get flooded or whatever. They only want the land to trade with. So these situations are, in these situations, we have to work hand in hand with the people in all the regional areas. So we are doing coordination, and we will start our climate change policies. And briefly, and this is something we will comment with the ministry, we'll have a number of sectoral policies for joint work, particularly watersheds, watersheds, river banks, and coastal hills. It's very hard work, but it can start by something. Here in Lima, we need to establish or re-establish order and the rule of law in public spaces and environmental spaces. Beyond what the mayor said of planting 1 million trees in the city. Thank you very much, Jose, for these messages. Particularly, the Lima regional government is one that needs to work on the regional strategy. And it's good to hear that you are already planning this instrument through this policy. Now, and to finish this round, we go to the north of Peru. We go to Cajamarca. We listen to Sergio Sanchez. He will share with us the challenges and opportunities he sees for the region. I have no sound from that microphone. No tengo sonido de ese micro, lo siento. No tengo sonido de ese micro, no tengo sonido de ese micro, no tengo sonido de ese micro. I'm sorry, I can't translate without the microphone. Okay. The priorities, our priorities are connected to NDCs and relieving poverty lines, and it will be important this afternoon. You will see them. We have 5,000 reservoirs to leverage economic corridors concerning production for the following 4 years with budgetary allocation. And we have a strong environmental commission. Out of the 127 comes, we are working in half of them. And each one has an important role in our regional Coordination Council. We also have a reforestation project in the 13 provinces, and we started one in Bambamarca with 16 million soles more for recovering ecosystem services that contribute 20% to the projection to 2030 as our targets in the country point out. And we are starting also a project in Selendín concerning forests, which is such important for us. So important for us. What are our challenges now? There's a very important issue. How can we generate knowledge communities, not only internally, as our colleague said, but also at international level? Because we have regional agendas that we are showing you. But there is a local level that also develops actions, and they don't know about the NDCs. They don't know about these new concepts or work lines, and we need to coordinate with them. They develop a number of activities, and we need to quantify them. Like, for example, Cajamarca has 127 districts. Each district develops activities that have to do with climate, but they are not organized in the NDCs. It's a problem because there are regional contributions, for example, in our agenda, and there are province contributions and at district level. And the country they are not organized in terms of NDCs. So it's difficult to quantify them. If we were able to quantify them, we would reach the 2030 objective of reducing 40% faster. So the main challenge for the ministry is to show not only what the regions do, but also what local governments do. And we need funding to do that. If we reach the local level, I think we'll be able to reach our targets for 2030. They are reforesting, they are making reservoirs, they are making artificial lagoons, and we need to have real and horizontal knowledge of all their adaptation and mitigation measures, and that the work pace this year and next will allow us to meet our targets.
Hello, can you hear me well? Hello. Thank you very much for this first round. I think you have mentioned some key topics that we hope to develop during these days. And to close this section, we had told you would have 2 minutes, but due to time constraints, if you can do it in 1 minute, we would be very thankful. We wanted you to tell us about this space that we are creating. We wanted to know what are your expectations and what is relevant for the work in the regions. And so let's start with Walter so that he can tell us regarding these expectations and the relevance. Thank you very much. For us, this event is vital. It's very important. Why? Because it allows us to talk about the innovations that are happening at an international level regarding the integrated climate change management and NDCs in our country. However, it's even more valuable to relate with other regional governments because we are going to be able to exchange experiences, knowledge, articulation, interinstitutional articulation mechanisms between public institutions and private institutions and civil society. And in this context, let's remember that Junín is among the 5 most vulnerable regions in the country, and that's going to allow us to capture information from other regions, the regions that have had a positive performance regarding the implementation of NDCs in the global crisis context and water crisis context. So our expectations for these events are learning from our brothers and sisters that have made positive progress in terms of comprehensive management of climate change. We would also like to listen to Ana. What are your expectations regarding these 2.5 days? So I have very high expectations, and the main expectation that I have is to shorten paths, to see successful experiences from other regional governments that can be useful for Ancash. A week ago, we approved budgets to increase the number of provinces with reforestation. We also have to focus on solving water issues through microbasins, working on the Kulkai basin that provides water for the city of Huaraz, and more actions. So we want to make paths shorter by seeing how others have implemented NDCs in our country. We also want to know what are the national and international guidelines so that Ancash, that's an icon in our country because it has 70% of glaciers. So Ancash is going to be very affected by climate change. Its glacier areas are reducing, but we also have experience regarding these glaciers, spaces without water. And I think that this event is going to allow us to talk about the management of glaciers in our country. And a big when we do security, there are not gaps in the Ministry of Economy and Finance, and this does allow us to do security works in the White Mountain Range. So those are my expectations. Thank you very much, Ana, for telling us about those expectations. And as Walter was saying, there is going to be exchange in the regions. Regions share areas and ecological zones. Junín, Ancash have these kinds of landscapes, glaciers, I mean. Okay, so let's go to San Martín, the Amazonian region. Yes, let's go to the jungle.
Sí, tenemos a la parte alta, pero no netamente glaciar. Por ahí vamos, sí. Bien, muy buenos días nuevamente.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning once again. And I congratulate this initiative from Minam. And it's great to have these workshops and these activities. Before, these activities were not very efficient, but today we have the opportunity to come back to on-site events and know more about the other regions. It's very important to know what are the challenges of the other regions, and as a San Martín region, one of our main challenges is deforestation, and basins, conservation areas. It's very important to get to know what's the work that we've been doing in San Martín to take care of our forests and mitigate climate change. the projects that we mentioned, and it's also important to take care of wetlands, which are very important to strengthen our environment. Thank you very much. Okay, going back to Jose, so that he can tell us about the expectations for these days. Okay, work on climate change agenda for the metropolitan region. But differently from my colleagues, this region is a region that has specificities. It has a huge urban space that's consolidated and that's consolidating in other spaces. But we have to highlight safeguard spaces that have to remain as untouchable to guarantee a better life in the future. We have to work with the Lima region. A metropolitan region has to work with the Lima region, and because there's contact with Huarochirí, Canta. But we are also working on public investment works to protect our coastal hills. We are working with Ancón to protect the hills in Ancón. We're going to launch Caraballo. We're going to work with Villa María, Amancaes, to protect these spaces from land traffickers and preserve them for the future. And something that's important is working with the Ministry of the Environment, who has that political will. They have the will to support us in this process. This process seeks to create change in terms of behavior so that people can enjoy these spaces, these hills, for sports, for adventure. And we will also be working on the river basins, taking people away from banks because they are exposing their lives. It's important to create public spaces. Environmental public space is a space where people, where citizens have to become aware very quickly of the importance of nature and protect it. Here it's very important to include the population. Let me tell you that, my colleagues, because people know how to take care of their resources. In the case of areas like Ancash, conservation also allows a different economy. You have to understand that the environment is part of the economy, but it's also part of the quality of life that we must protect for people in Lima and Peruvians in general. Okay, and to close this phase, this part, I'm going to give the floor to Sergio. Thank you very much. So regarding the expectations and priorities, I think that the first, I have three expectations. One is to get to know the different strategies that exist in the different regional governments to implement the NDCs. I think that this is important. And at an international level, the cooperants must see what we do. And according to what they do, we will be able to see how we can articulate and coordinate. For example, we are conserving 70,000 forest hectares in 3 new different conservation areas. We have 6 cooperants, but it's important to see how we can increase participation and coordination cooperation levels. My second expectation has to do with the ministry. It's necessary to have budgets for climate change. We have a budget project 044068, and we take resources, and the 068 We have a national defense program. We also have a fire program. So we try to pull resources from these projects. Do we need a special budget for climate change to be able to focus really on sustainability articulation so that we can reach 2030 with quantified processes in the different regional governments regarding NDCs? So I think that this is important. And at an international level, my third expectation is to get to know how our position as a country and our commitment as a country is related with climate investments during COP28. Our country is a poor country, and we must not become indebted to face climate change. We have to put balance into this. Other countries have to be responsible with us, and they should be invest in a horizontal and a fair manner. And so this is the position that we have been discussing in the different spaces, North, Central, and South. And I think that this expectation has to be clear here so that we can exit the space happy and calm regarding the future activities. Thanks to you all. Thanks for sharing your expectations and their importance. I think that we are going to have spaces to develop better these issues. We're going to talk about the climate financing. This is something that we have been working on. We have done a lot of progress regarding this. So now we're going to take a picture.
Listo, muchas gracias a cada uno de ustedes. Un aplauso, por favor.
Thank you very much. Big round of applause for this first panel. We thank Cristina Rodriguez, Director of Climate Change and Desertification and the Ministry of the Environment. Thank you, Cristina, for moderation. As we saw, this first panel has given us an idea of the progress that has been made and how the progress looks like in the territories regarding NDCs. And the two events that we have progress and priorities for the implementation and for the multi-sectorial and multi-level implementation, our climate change, our climate challenge on NDCs with regional governments, and the other workshop that's a platform for strategies of resilient development and low emissions in Latin America and the Caribbean. So I want to share with you different visions in the climate change, and this is why we have Virginia Milariño, best known as Vicky. She is a LESLA platform coordinator, and she will be moderating the second panel. A big round of applause for Vicky, please. Thank you very much, Alexis.
A mí moderar este panel de inauguración y de bienvenida con los
It's a pleasure for me to moderate this panel. So this podium is very high. I'm very short, so I'm going to stand here because that's a live adaptation measure. And it's a pleasure to be part of this inauguration of both events.
del Medio Ambiente, del Ambiente de Perú.
We thank the Minister of the Environment for giving us the possibility to share these productive days. and inaugurate together this Climate Week.
Este segundo panel contamos con la presencia de
For the second panel, we have 3 panelists that I'm going to invite to come join me. Corina Kusel, Regional Director for Peru, Chile, and Argentina from the GIZ, German Cooperation Agency. Welcome. Thank you very much, Corina. Ezequiel Cambiaso, representative of the IDB in Peru. Welcome, Ezequiel. Thank you. And Bettina Walde Montenegro, resident representative of UNDP. Thank you very much, Bettina. Thank you. To all 3 of you, I want to thank you for your very valuable contribution to this workshop. It wouldn't have been possible without your contribution. And I want to take a couple of minutes to introduce LEDS LAC. Today we were talking about what LEDS meant, and so we need to introduce the platform very briefly. The platform is a network of organizations and people that lead transformation in the region and the different countries in our region to implement and design resilient strategies and low emission strategies. I'm coordinating this platform. I've been coordinating this platform for a few months, and it really has a big social capital that it has created during its 10 years of work. It has 3 fundamental pillars that have to do with what we will be talking about today. One of the platform pillars is to create spaces, opportunities for cooperation, synergies between the different actors that foster development, like the academia, cooperation agencies, civil society organizations. This is a very valuable space for articulation, and the panelists from the regions mentioned this. It's important to articulate, to exchange experiences, learnings, exchanging good practices, what works and what doesn't. And that's the second pillar of our platform: generation of capacities, development of and spreading knowledge between the members of the platform. And finally, one of the work axes is to provide technical assistance to the different countries and players in those countries to develop and implement project strategies, roadmaps, practices aligned with the reduction of emissions and the adaptation regarding climate change. So articulation, cooperation, synergies, those are the key axes of this platform. And they take us to one of the first matters on which we wanted to reflect with you from the point of view of your organizations and looking at the region. From your organizations, what are the priorities of international cooperation regarding the NDC plans in the countries? What are the challenges do you identify in terms of international cooperation to provide support to the countries in the region? Here, I don't know if you can help me with the time. Someone is probably going to show us the time, and so let's talk about these challenges and opportunities for development in the region. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to this opening event. And thank you for inviting me as well to the workshop. Let's change the mic.
Perfecto. Bueno, creo que
I believe that that the German government gives a lot of importance to the mitigation and adaptation to climate change and puts great effort into implementing indices that were adopted in Paris. And this is true for Latin America, but it's also the case in Peru, where the cooperation really focuses on this topic. In the case of Peru, we have a tool that's very important. And it is similar to what we have in other countries. It's the Alliance for Climate that we have formed with the Peruvian government the last year. And the idea of this alliance between Peru and Germany is to orient the contributions of towards the implementation of NDCs and climate action. So there's implementation of different programs and funding lines to implement NDCs regarding biodiversity, forest, transportation, economy, and circular economy. It constitutes like dialogue, ceiling for coordination between the Peruvian and German governments. And so it's a tool to dialogue with the different ministries. An element that I would like to emphasize on specifically is climate funding. This is something that we see as an important tool to leverage the different contributions, and this is a topic that we will be strengthening during the following years to work more towards this tool. And I would like to emphasize that we have a very important role, that the private sector has a very important role. Another important element to achieve the objective is cooperation between the different donors. In this context, an essential element is a very strong cooperation that we have with the European Union. The example is Euroclimate that is sponsoring this event, and we are very happy about the Euroclimate contributions in the framework of the country dialogue. In 2020, we agreed upon certain tools, certain initiatives for cooperation, and they are added to the efforts that we are agreeing upon with the Peruvian government in the framework of the Climate Alliance. But I think that it's important to highlight the contribution of Euroclimate to cooperation with the whole of Latin America, because we're maintaining the dialogue at a regional level and also with the different countries at a Latin American level, and agreeing with all the countries regarding cooperation, transportation, biodiversity, climate, regarding special initiatives. So I will finish here. I have not seen the stop sign, but I'm going to stop here. Thank you very much, Corina, and you have set the standard very high for the other panelists. Ezequiel from IDB. What are the priorities and the challenges of international cooperation to accelerate climate action in our region? Thank you, Virginia. First of all, I want to greet everyone, colleagues, friends from the regional governments, my colleagues from the international cooperation, and officials in general. First of all, I think that you have to thank the Ministry of the Environment, but also the Prime Minister's words. He has a different vision. He has a more political vision. And he talked about the climate change agenda. It's a challenge of the government and the central government. So on our side, we want to celebrate that vocation and taking this seriously and responding. And so you asked about the challenges. More than the challenges, I would like to focus on what the IDB is doing and what the IDB has to do to respond to the challenges. And my colleagues talked about the challenges that they have, not only in Peru, but in regional governments. And here they called us to talk about a regional vision. And the challenges that we have in Peru and the regional government are not different from the other countries in the region, are not very different from the other countries in the region, because there are different hues, but the problems are similar, and the ways of dealing with these problems is also very similar, and the aim is the same. So at the bank, we truly believe that this is a priority, and so we support the development, the transition towards a resilient economy to comply with the Paris Agreement. In 2022, the bank approved $5 billion with a climate change approach. And during the next 3 or 4 years, 23, 24, 25, we should be in a 24 billion regarding climate change and a green economy. We truly believe that it's necessary to deal with this topic. And this topic doesn't have to be only focused from the environmental aspect. We think it's multi-sectorial. It has to do with other sectors as well. In the ministries of the economy, this is regarded as a fiscal matter. And so we need to share a vision between the Ministry of the Economy and the Ministry of the Environment. This is why we created the platform, so that ministries of the environment and financial ministries in the region could work together. This is a space where the countries can exchange information, can learn, and understand that what's happens in all sectors, to see how they have solved different issues and how they can take these solutions to their countries. At the bank, we have been working in the Amazon region, one of the species that's most affected by deforestation. The bank has been working with the 2021 Amazon initiative, but in 2023, the bank understood that it had to be more present in the Amazon region and launched the Amazonia por Siempre program, Amazon Forever program. And Peru has taken an extraordinary leadership through the Ministry of Economy and Finance. It's a program that seeks to coordinate the efforts, put some order into them, manage the resources so that the impact of work that's being carried out will have more positive impacts.
On the other hand, I think that the climate change issue is not only a public sector problem, it's also one encompassing all the sectors in the society. The public sector, of course, has to have the leading voice, but it has to coordinate with the private sector and the civil society. And of course, the academia, it's a key player to tackle with this problem. I don't know what's my time? Okay, I'm finished. I can speak all day long. I'll leave it at this, and if there's a chance to speak more, we'll go on. Thank you very much, Virginia. Thank you very much. Well, I'll try to recap some of the common messages you have shared and that resonate with the former panel's message, which makes a lot of sense. Bettina, I pass the floor to you then. Thank you very much for the invitation to share this space. Greetings to representatives from different countries in the region. Peru in its several government levels and international cooperation. The UNSG, Antonio Guterres, last month said that the global warming era finished to go to global boiling. This means that the effects of a climate crisis have reached the most critical point. In July, we had the warmest month that has ever been recorded. Latin America and the Caribbean already experience the bad impacts of this reality. Temperatures have increased by 0.2 degrees Celsius per decade, the biggest rate we have seen. Peru is one of the most affected countries through intense flooding, also droughts due to the El Nino southern oscillation. So climate action is urgent, and all governments have to assume that. I'd also like to talk about the UNDP approach vis-a-vis such challenges. The UNDP is the UN arm with the largest portfolios in the system, and it offers mitigation and adaptation actions. That support is directly integrated and always linked to human development priorities. We highlight the link between humans and the environment and the impact on climate. That work and impact has shown very concrete achievements, from strengthened livelihoods, more access to energy, sustained and inclusive growth through a fair transition. So, as part of our strategies, our development strategies at UNDP, we promote the Climate Promise, the biggest program globally, where we are supporting more than 130 countries and territories to face a climate change, comply with their or reach their climate objectives, and significantly reduce GHGs while increasing the ambition of their NDCs. That support covers 12 areas: energy, circular economy, resilience, adaptation, climate financing, forests, lands, among others. Particularly, out of the 33 countries in the Latin America and in Caribbean countries, 26 have received support by this initiative to establish their NDCs. Out of them, 23 territories, among which Peru has communicated their updated NDCs to the UNFCCC, and the others are underway in collaboration with GIZ, the World Bank, and the NDC partnership in Peru. The UNDP has supported the government through the Ministry of the Environment to reach their assumed commitments. The country has increased its mitigation target from 30 to 40% to 2030, incorporated the gender approach in mitigation and adaptation measures, and we congratulate the Peruvian government for assuming this big challenge. We have learned that good governance is critical to do that work. The more holistic the approach and the bigger the participation of all sectors, the bigger the ambition and scope. This is very important, and governments have to use NDCs as a roadmap to promote low emission and resilient growth. And this is why we cannot stop climate action. I stop here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the three of you. If you allow me, the first thought before going to the next question. Alex, can I? 1 minute? Right. I'd like to highlight some points in which you coincide in terms of priorities, challenges, and progress in the regional cooperation. I use the term, you mentioned, Bettina, governance, because I think that in different ways you all have talked about the need for governance at several levels and for several actors, and that coincides with one of the messages of the IPCC that tells us that we are not progressing towards our 1.5 target, but we are still in time. It's not a technological challenge or economic challenge. It's governance and coordination among actors and government levels, and it is there the institutional challenge, the governance challenge, and coordination between sectors, the biggest challenge to be able to align to the 1.5 objective. Science tells us cooperating agencies that are acting and generating changes in the territory say the same thing, and these paces point towards identifying these needs and priorities to collaborate in the solution, but also exchanging how we are working towards these challenges. The second challenge, the IPCC states, and you too, is increasing funding and scaling up private funding to implement, as you mentioned, not only an increase of ambition, but also implement what's already been committed. Okay, those points lead me to the following question, which is the importance is paid to identify priorities and needs, and the regional government representatives said that we do not need to start from scratch. We need to start from what others have done. What importance do you acknowledge in workshops such as this one or other learning and exchange forums where actors, communities, and governments participate? Thank you very much. I think that you were already starting to answer, actually, because, well, we know what challenges we have at hand, and you also highlighted that it was not technical solutions, but governance and cooperation that were of the essence. It's very evident we need to put together all efforts, involve the entire society, not only public institutions, but obviously public institutions too, and not only at national, but also regional level, as is being done here. But since Ezequiel also answered the question of mentioning the academia and the private sector, as well as scientific entities to close the gap between the social, the civil society funding gap, and also the essential importance of indigenous peoples. In this context, it's evident that we need to promote forums for exchange and learning, as this week. This is the Climate Week in Peru, and this regional LAC workshop has this regional perspective involving different players, and obviously here we need to know how we can go from learning to action. Thank you, Corina. I share what you said at 100%. I think you made a very interesting report of the objective of a forum such as this one. But if I had to define or summarize, I would say two words. First of all, the bank sees it's very relevant to have this kind of forums. So much so that we are the technical secretariat of the Ministry of Finance climate change platform. It's a space for exchanging and learning, and that is translated into this moment. So where do I see the benefits of this forum? Knowledge, on the one hand, I think that's key. Knowledge exchange, right? Because right now we are with the water up to our necks, and it's generous to say, well, this happened to me and I solved it in such and such way. So as not to start from scratch, as we said before. That's key, I think. The second point is coordination. Yeah. If I had to summarize the benefit of this forum, knowledge and coordination, I think, and you summarized that very well, Virginia, when you talked about the value of governance for this kind of activity, right? And that's translated into coordination. It's key. In this way, we'll have the best impact possible in our actions. As we always say, needs are huge. Unfortunately, our resources are scarce, particularly in a region where there are so many differences and gaps to be closed as Latin America and the Caribbean. In that regard, I repeat, coordination and knowledge will make our resources bigger or smaller to be invested in the best way to generate the best impact for all of our people. Thank you very much. I can't add too much. You have highlighted the value of having an exchange forum. I just wanted to highlight once again that needs, as you have said, multi-actor and multi-level work. The challenges we have ahead have to be faced together. Governments at all levels, regional interaction, youth, indigenous peoples, private sector, organized society. Climate change is the biggest challenge for our generation and the future's generations. So there are no small efforts. Everything helps. I wanted to reaffirm our commitment of continuing supporting Peru and the countries in the region in their efforts, incorporate lessons learned, replicate best practices, and from the approach UNDP has, it's very important to relate all this to human development. In this way, what we can do is to transform challenges into opportunities that will provide benefits for all, not only those of you in the room, but tangible benefits for all that take us to a sustainable, inclusive, competitive, and efficient future. Bringing those benefits for everybody without leaving anyone behind. Well, we have gained a few minutes. You cannot complain. This panel has been excellent in everything. So to ruin the time we have gained, I'm going to summarize the importance we attribute to cooperation and coordination. This is why we wanted to have this panel at the beginning of our workshop, because this opens the work for the 3 days, 3 coming days. This is not a SLAG idea or of the 4 present here. I mean, cooperation and coordination, right? IPCC, as you know, models and analyzes and determines thousands of possible scenarios that could take us to reach the objective of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees. There are 1,000 ways of achieving that according to needs, contexts, and priorities of each region and country. But none of those thousands of scenarios that are successful to 1.5 is possible without international cooperation and without collaboration among different players in countries. There's no way to achieve the 1.5 objective without international cooperation and coordinating actions among actors of each country. That's a huge role international cooperation has. And I think the panelists have been at the height, let us say, for this challenge. So with no more to say, a big round of applause for this panel. I pass the floor to Alexis. Thank you very much. Please stand up here for the photograph of our second panel. We are finishing our opening session. It's been interesting to have different versions from regional players and cooperation entities or agencies.
No se mareen con los flash. Listo, muchísimas gracias a todos ustedes. Muchas gracias, Vicky, por este segundo panel.
Thank you very much to you all. And thank you very much, Vicky, for this second panel. To finish this moment, we'll give you 3 steps. The first one is a photograph of all those who have participated. The Climate Week panel, just a moment. The second, don't stand up, just a moment, please. Okay, we can joke a little bit here with my colleague. Then we'll invite all the representatives of the regional governments to go to the second floor in this hotel to start the work you will do with regional governments and the Ministry of the Environment. And the third step, you will take the Let's LAC participants will just stay here. Okay, and then we continue with the Let's LAC regional workshop. Well, first the photograph, then all the representatives of regional governments go to the second floor with all your belongings. And then the third one is that those participating in the Let's LAC will stay here.